we are witnessing perhaps the single greatest downfall of a YouTuber in years. Blair, aka iilluminaughtii, has been absolutely swarmed with accusations that she has a pattern of controlling, toxic, and obsessive behavior against former collaborators.
Just to get back at an ex-colleague, she did this, she paid people to dig up dirt, make alt accounts, harass me for months. Why?
She had a hand in every single aspect of my life, and at any moment she could take it away when she felt, which is exactly what happened.
Which was actually what caused the collab channel Sad Milk to go under. And this was all brought to light by The Click, Wonderstruck, OneTopic, and Oz Media, who all shared their experiences on Twitter. And at first, Blair responded with a lengthy video that was received horribly, where she had accused The Click of cultivating an environment where child likers can thrive, seemingly based on completely misrepresented events.
He cultivated an environment that was a breeding ground for inappropriate behavior with minors to occur, and that's exactly what happened.
Now, the first detail that was conveniently left out of the accusations is that I was asleep, and within the span of me sleeping, this random creep in question had already gotten banned.
And even further, she outed very personal details of Wonder's struggles with mental health, seemingly to make him appear too unstable and unreliable to be trusted.
What she did to Wonder is the most gross expose I have ever seen. Not only does she openly share his potential suicide note,
my mental health, which was proudly put on display for the world to see.
And so far, The Click, Wonder, and Oz have all responded to Blair's video, which has had a devastating result on Blair's image. But in short, iilluminaughtii seems to have been living up to her name, conspiracies and all. And in response to these videos, Blair seems to have become desperate, and that was before OneTopic finally broke his silence and released his own response video. So what exactly has been going on? Well, at first, it seemed like Blair's plan was just to ignore this until the controversy blew over. She resumed posting on the iilluminaughtii channel like normal, ignoring the swarms of dislikes and people unsubscribing. But for whatever reason, she is done using that approach. On May 26th, Blair released a series of tweets directly calling the accusations false, which was probably a bad start because Click and Wonder provided a lot of evidence of their claims, and Blair's statement was vague from start to finish. She goes on to promise transparency and accountability as she handles the situation, as well as a commitment to responding and ensuring that truth will prevail. So, wow, okay, being transparent about your approach with every step is a great way to clear her name if this is all somehow a hoax, right? Problem is, Blair has already failed to live up to this promise and seems to be moving in the opposite direction, sending Wonder a cease and desist to prevent him from commenting any further on this issue, which is actually something Wonder specifically called Blair out for in the past, of basically using her expansive resources to bully adversaries into silence with lawyers. For example, Blair threatened legal action against Wonder in the past for tweeting about her while she herself was tweeting about him.
For my boss, who was constantly subtweeting about me, you can see is acknowledged even by one of her own managers, and they told me specifically that this was not okay behavior.
And Wonder has announced his intention to actually fight Blair on this, launching a GoFundMe for his legal fees. And to give you an idea of how massive this has become, Wonder has raised almost $15,000 in just 3 days, and it's definitely more by now. And as if Wonder wasn't already likable enough, he pledged to donate any excess funds to the Trevor Project and provide receipts of how he spends every cent of what he raises, which frankly, it's awesome to see some actual transparency in this situation. I mean, Blair is yet to release any kind of statement on why she's trying to silence Wonder after pledging transparency. It seems like silencing your accuser just because you have more money than them would be the opposite of that, right? But like I said, that's just now scratching the surface of new developments thanks to OneTopic. See, OneTopic has been pretty quiet about this whole mess since his original Twitter thread. It's fair to say he doesn't really care for the drama of all this, and I can't say I blame him. In fact, OT makes his intentions with his video pretty clear right from the jump.
I still maintain an entire lack of interest in pointing fingers over petty things. But not speaking about at least some of what has now been brought up has left a vacuum that can be filled with doubt towards a friend of mine and myself. And without ambiguity, I wanted to address the parts that I was present for that I feel were misrepresented and lied about.
And he expresses a lot of grievances with Blair throughout his video. But right away, he shows particular frustration at her putting words in his mouth in order to attack the Click, especially since the two are still good friends.
Just to clear the air on that side, since I feel at least a little bit like some words were put in my mouth.
OT then begins to share gripes with Blair's actions surrounding Sad Milk, specifically that he was unhappy to see Blair continuously provide a false narrative in why Sad Milk disbanded.
And my friends and I left the project when the good no longer outweighed the bad. Anyways, iilluminaughtii has dropped a video about it, one that at the time of recording this is still up. and it should be taken down. Take it for what you will, but a lot was framed incorrectly or was outright false.
He also states that Click and Wonder's depiction of Sad Milk was far more accurate to his experiences than how Blair described it.
A lot has been said about it already in Click's and Wonder's videos. I agree with their recounting, as I remember it the same way.
Which again spells some real trouble for Illuminati. If everyone is agreeing that she was the root of Sad Milk's toxicity, especially when these four creators have been in conflict with each other in the past, the standard for what Blair has to do in order to clear her name just keeps rising. Because what would these four have to gain from framing Blair? They're not responding to accusations from her where it might make sense to lie. They all independently chose to share their piece about this, though I guess we'll see. OT goes on to say that Blair's claims that members of Sad Milk were failing to uphold their financial responsibilities was just untrue. In fact, he states that all of the creators found themselves in different financial situations, so they would typically agree to let the more affluent members take on some additional costs so that their friends who are smaller creators could still participate in the project.
It became pretty clear early on that a couple members couldn't really afford the cost of a fun side project, and we had conversations as a group about how to solve for that. One solution discussed, for example, was the rest of the group taking on those costs. For example, when we found out that one of the group members couldn't get the 100K plaque because they couldn't afford the cost of it, we discussed pitching in together with our earnings to get it for them. It wasn't some debt that they'd owe, but just something that we could do for them so that we could all celebrate together.
OT then addresses Blair's claims about Click fostering an unsafe environment for children by directly calling her a liar who put words in OT's mouth.
It made me uncomfortable to hear words or intentions put in my mouth regarding the group call, whose framing in the video does not comport with reality. The retelling of how our group conversation went and using it as a way to frame the situation as Click not actioning soon enough or responding timely is simply a lie.
Additionally, OT doubles down on Click's recollection of those events, that someone was acting inappropriately, this all happened while Click was sleeping, but the issue was resolved with the urgency it required. Also, OT criticizes Blair for how she responded to the situation, where she immediately freaked out and began to jump to conclusions about Click before either of them even spoke to him about this.
And I thought the best way to clear this up would be to just talk to him. It felt weird that we hadn't yet.
OneTopic then accuses Blair of misrepresenting his messages regarding this event. Specifically, the message where OneTopic states that he doesn't want access to the screenshots of the inappropriate Discord user. Blair seemed to strongly imply that the message was sent out of sheer disgust and discomfort towards Click.
And I shared these files with them. And OneTopic opened the files, he was horrified, and he said, and I quote, "I've read one and I don't want access to those screenshots."
But in actuality, that's not what OneTopic says happened. To the contrary, OT states that Blair kept harping on about the banned user and wanted OT to extend his involvement with the situation, despite it being already resolved. That message, according to OT, was basically him saying he doesn't want access to those screenshots because they're disgusting, and him going through them, as Blair was trying to force him to do, was upsetting him for no gain.
Near the end of the call, Illuminaughtii stated that she wanted me to see the screenshots to fully understand the gravity of the situation, and I conveyed that since everything was already discussed and solved, I really didn't want to see the messages of a banned Discord person, and I was told it was important to look at them. So wanting to keep the waters calm, I opened the folder and I looked at one of the screenshots, and then I reiterated in written text what I'd already conveyed, which was that I had no interest in having access to the screenshots.
And generally, OT expressed satisfaction with Click's handling of that situation. In fact, he had even said back then that he was worried that Blair would draw the worst possible conclusion from what was ultimately a non-story, and he humorously points out that years later she's done exactly that.
And she woke me up a while ago with a lot of concerns, so I was just sticking around to make sure that she didn't take things to the worst conclusion.
After putting the claims against the Click to rest, OneTopic moves on to the call that resulted in his leaving Sad Milk. See, all the creators speaking out against Blair have agreed that during OT's final call with Sad Milk, she screamed and cursed at him for unintentionally interrupting her.
I'd like to clarify that OT did not speak over her out of disrespect, but out of a minor Discord delay, to which she said, and I quote, "Shut the f up and let me talk for once." I remember it clearly. It was very nasty.
OT said that Wonder's recollection of those events best matches his experience, but he also adds context that somehow makes all of this even worse. Specifically, the meeting was being held during a period that OT and Click had scheduled as time off because they needed a breather from the project.
And when we were told the meeting was to take place, it was during that time off that we had scheduled. Time we needed to step away for a breather.
And while he doesn't specifically state that Blair was the one to schedule the meeting, that seems to be what he was alluding to. And throughout this segment, OT demonstrates a level of pain towards this whole exchange and ultimately says this on his decision to leave Sad Milk.
It became clear during the meeting that me simply staying involved in the project was unhealthy for me, but also that my participation was seen as antagonistic. I don't know what she needed, but whatever it was, whatever kind of help it wasn't what a friend could give. And I don't think I was one at that point. And that sucked.
OneTopic then shares how he and Click announced to Sad Milk that they would be leaving. More specifically, both emphasized a desire to not make a big deal out of their departure, possibly by not even announcing it at all and just fading out.
I don't plan on having a public announcement made, just let it fade out smoothly, with a new style of content that might actually happen naturally.
Currently, I will be stepping away from Sad Milk. I don't have any public messaging planned, as any change, such as someone leaving, can make people feel like a project is on rocky footing, and I don't want my personal exit to be the cause of yet more drama.
And this is in stark contrast to what Blair actually did. She announced their departure on the Sad Milk Twitter, and then within hours, she tweeted out on her personal Twitter that child likers are bad, heavily implying that there was someone in her life recently that disagreed with this sentiment. And if that wasn't bad enough, the Sad Milk Twitter retweeted that. Again, this was all within a few hours, so rumors began to run rampant about Click and OneTopic, and it quite frankly doesn't take a genius to figure out how. And I don't know how you could possibly argue that that wasn't Blair's intention. She 100% knew what she was doing, or is the dumbest YouTuber in the history of the internet, and I don't think it's the latter. Furthermore, OneTopic discussed iilluminaughtii lying about their departure on her main Reddit account, where she stated that OT and Click never stepped up to the plate. And recently, Wonder had stated that this was an outright lie that he had actually helped spread.
She took to Reddit to falsify a narrative, which you can read on screen. I joined in as well on this. I explained how those who departed did not help us in numerous ways, and that it all fell onto us. I'd like to point out that I directly lied on this post.
So now you have OneTopic, Wonder, and Click all saying that Blair has a pattern of overstating her contribution to various efforts, and this seems to be yet another example of how.
But the fact remains, she wasn't the one who saved my channel.
So while yes, Blair did pay for edits, she was always reimbursed for this.
Moving on from his discussion on Sad Milk, OneTopic joined the Click, Wonder, and basically all of the internet in calling Blair out for exposing Wonder's mental health the way she did, where she weaponized the vulnerability that this group shared with each other as friends.
Struggling with mental health was something I related to strongly with other members of the group, and we talked pretty openly about it. Our fears, our insecurities. One thing I never thought would be released was personal details about a group member's mental health or their struggles. I figured those kind of personal details would be off limits and no way would be used as a weapon.
But even further, the Click had previously proven that Blair was using various alt accounts to harass and slander Click and OneTopic. And OneTopic agrees that this harassment was done by Blair.
We were surprised by the Reddit posts. Certainly. The details from the troll account were so specific.
And more specifically, Blair was using these alts to keep calling attention to decade-old actions by Click in order to ruin his reputation and OT's by association.
And I know he apologized for his words that he said when he was 15. And Swedish. And learning English as a second language. However, the account targeted his apology, said it was bad, and continued on to ping others. It became clear the harassment was not intended to stop.
And if that sounds like a reach, OT shows excerpts of Blair's alt attempting to use this bad PR to drive a wedge between the two friends, basically trying to ensure that OT's career couldn't survive if he were to be friends with Click.
And OneTopic is friends with someone while pretending to be wholesome and good. I think OneTopic is a liar and a sham, and has been pandering to our community if he stays friends with someone like this. He is using us for money. It was such specific phrasing and sounded so familiar.
Which lends a lot of validity to Oz's claims that Blair had isolated him and ultimately cost him multiple friendships. And Blair trying to spread rumors didn't stop with Click and OT. In fact, there was another former member of Sad Milk, Salty, who OT actually asked to respond to an accusation that Blair had made on an alt account. Specifically, Blair alleged that OT and Click basically poached Salty away from Sad Milk.
Did you leave Sad Milk because we were paying you better on the podcast?
No. No. Wait, I was getting paid?
Shut up, Salty.
By doing this, Blair was trying to set the narrative that OT and Click leaving Sad Milk was a betrayal of their community. Basically, the Sad Milk viewers should be taking this personally and turn on the two, which, again, Wow. But that's not even close to where this ends. OT stressed in this video how much he values his privacy as a creator, and he had discovered Blair was doing everything in her power to undermine that.
Private details about members of the group who left were being spread around maliciously when I was DM'd by a concerned community member who had been talked to. The message was concerning offline information. It later became clear who that information had originated from, and this was later independently corroborated by a creator who had come forward to me who had witnessed this.
And all of this coming from Blair, it took a clear toll on OneTopic, with him even saying he wouldn't mind if Blair just said negative things about him provided she did it the right way.
I don't care that mean words were said about me or that mean words will still be said about me. There is a distinct difference between privately venting and purposefully spreading of harmful lies.
And in the aftermath of Blair's crusade, OT shares that he's been forced to be wary about who he interacts with or lets interact with his content because they could find themselves targeted by those sent by Blair, which would once again demonstrate that Blair has a tendency to try and isolate people that she holds a grudge against as much as possible. OT then expresses gratitude towards his support system, but also expresses a level of denial at just how much Blair tried to ruin him, as well as, well, see for yourself.
I still don't want to believe all of this is true. The only kind of person who could slander their friends like this is someone who is darkly unremarkable.
Yeah, he's pissed, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. Friendships, relationships, partnerships, they end. That's just part of life. But it says a lot when someone's going out of their way to hurt someone as much as possible who likely never intended them any harm in the first place.
OneTopic then addresses Blair directly and echoes the sentiment shared by the clique, which is that Illuminaughtii simply took this way too far.
This isn't some small YouTuber beef. This isn't people being angry at each other because, ooh, someone did a bit more work in a project or not.
What you did was unacceptable and goes so far beyond any petty beefs or squabbles or hurt feelings. This wasn't just trying to separate yourself from us like we asked for. You acted like this was a war and that you should be recruiting soldiers to come after us. You lied. And I can only think that's because you wanted us gone. You wanted these lies to come into our everyday life offline.
And OT directly calls out Blair's demonstrated pattern of destroying someone just for being a former friend.
These people who were your friends, and then when they finally couldn't take how you treated them, you immediately turned on them and worked to isolate them from their friends and their communities.
And OT ultimately shares his piece about Blair, clearly hurt and pained by what he clearly sees as a situation that was wholly avoidable.
But when we explained our boundaries, it just wasn't good enough. That kind of resentment builds up. It doesn't mean we hated you or that we could never reconnect down the road.
He then closes out his video by addressing common questions he expects to receive. This includes revealing that he had considered legal action against Blair in the past, but doesn't intend on actually pursuing that route unless Blair leaves him no other choice. And considering she's gone after Wonder with a cease and desist, who knows what's next? So if she stops there, I could think of a few reasons why that might be. It could be because Wonder's claims were the most damaging for Blair since he asserted that she gained control over his entire life. It could be because as a former employee, he signed some contract that would make Blair suing him the most feasible, and it could also be that Wonder simply doesn't have the resources of the others, especially Blair, to fight back. But I don't know, all this is speculative. It's more than possible that tomorrow she's going to take similar actions against OT, Click, and Oz, or that she drops the whole crusade against Wonder entirely. And at this point, it feels impossible to predict Blair's behavior. And throughout this video, OT seems to emphasize that he and the other former Sad Milk members are in fact on good terms. He states that he spent the last month talking to them and figuring out together what they're going to do about this whole situation. And he ends his video with a clip of the guys just hanging out together to pay tribute to the friendships formed across Sad Milk that weren't toxic.
Where are your shoes? Wonder! Barefoot. Wonder, go inside. Where are your shoes? My only hope. The official lost media is chasing me!
And that's where we are now. OneTopic has finally shared his piece, and we're waiting to see if, as he puts it,
Stay tuned to see if I get sued, I guess.
and I'm gonna repeat what I said in response to the Clicks video and Wonders, which is that Blair is screwed. I cannot fathom what she can possibly have in mind to try and combat this, to the point that I'm honestly pretty surprised to see that she's still trying to come out on top. I mean, the evidence against her has been incredibly thorough from now Click, OT, Wonder, and Oz. No one is coming to her to
defense, and with each story that comes out about Blair, it just makes it harder and harder to imagine any scenario where she wins or does whatever it is she wants to do, unless she just sues everyone into silence. The fact that her pledge to be transparent was so vague and preceded her trying to silence Wonder, that's not a good look either. But I will forever find it hilarious that this all started because iilluminaughtii developed a vendetta because another YouTuber used the same video effect as her.
Like, if you know you have a history of being petty, obsessive, and vindictive, but the public is unaware of this, maybe don't provide undeniable proof of your problematic behavior, thus allowing your victims to just go as a way to prove that you're toxic. I don't know, just an idea. But